Hello everyone, this is Ashley Tucker. Thank you for joining me today. For today's card, I started with a piece of Canson watercolor paper and I went over it with my powder tool really well. I then took this Welcome Fall stencil by Echo Park and I placed it over the top of that paper. And then I took my Versamark ink and smooshed it into the stencil, leaving behind the design of the leaves. I heat embossed that leaf design using a clear embossing powder. I'm going to be blending over this panel using a bunch of different colors of Distress Oxide ink. The clear embossed design is going to resist that Distress Oxide ink, leaving those areas white. The colors that I chose to blend with are Fossilized Amber, Spiced Marmalade, Candied Apple, Fired Brick, and Seedless Preserves. If you look, you'll notice that I have a green ink pad open in the corner there. That's my Twisted Citron. I thought when I was planning this that I wanted to use that as well, but as I started, I realized that I didn't want the green. I didn't show this part in the video, but once the blending was done, I took a clean cloth and I went over the panel really well, and that cleans off any ink that's on top of the embossing and leaves those areas nice and white. Next, I took out this stamp set by Lawn Fawn. This one's called So Owlsome, and I stamped 3 of the owl images from that stamp set onto a piece of Bristol smooth paper using my Simon Says Stamp Intense Black ink. I'm going to be using my Arteza Real Brush pens for the coloring on these owls. I wanted to keep the coloring for this pretty simple. These owls are very small, so you don't really need to go crazy with it. For the tummies on the 3 owls, I used the colors Pale Skin and Light Skin. For this first owl in the middle, I used the colors Dolphin Gray and Elephant Gray. Normally with my Arteza coloring, I lay down one color and then I come in with my paintbrush and blend it, and then I move on to the next color. But with these images, I decided to lay down both colors that I'd be using and then blend it with the paintbrush. Now, the reason that I normally start with just one color is because I don't want to give it any time to dry on the paper before I blend it. But with these images, I was working pretty fast and they're pretty small areas, so the marker stayed relatively wet while I laid down the second color and then moved on to the blending. I do find it a lot easier to blend Arteza markers if I don't give them a lot of time to dry. Okay, so for that owl on the right hand side, I used the colors Ginger and Tawny, and for the owl on the left side, I'm using the colors Coffee and Chocolate. And of course, now I want coffee and chocolate, and I don't have any in the house here. I might have to run to the store after this. Why do they gotta make delicious names for these markers? Now I'm not gonna stop thinking about it. Anyways, once I finished coloring the bodies of the 3 owls, I colored in their beaks and their feet, and for that I used the color Burnt Orange. And I didn't do any blending for that, those areas are really tiny. Next I took out my Prismacolor pencils to add a little bit more detail to these owls. For the dark brown owl, I used the color PC 947. For the light brown owl, I used the color PC 943, and for the gray one, I used PC 1056 and PC 1083. Now, I used these colored pencils to try and give some texture to these areas and make them look a little bit more like feathers. Once I finished coloring in these 3 owls, I took the coordinating dies and I cut them out. Okay, so I took the Distress Oxide leaf panel that I created earlier and I cut it with my tonic trimmer into 2 pieces. I then took the 3 owls that I colored and I popped them up onto a card base using some foam tape. I wanted the gray owl to be centered in the upper portion of the paper, and I just did my best to kind of eyeball that. And then I added the 2 other owls beside him. Still thinking about chocolate and coffee, by the way. I took 2 pieces of Gina K Plum Punch cardstock and I used my ATG gun to adhere them to the back of both leaf patterned paper panels. there's another tongue twister for you guys. In my last video, I had silver circular sequins, and now I have patterned paper panels. Apparently, I like to say really difficult things. Anyways, I took those two panels and I popped them up onto my card using foam tape, one of them above the owls and one of them below, and you can see that plum punch cardstock peeking out along the edges. I then used my tonic trimmer to cut off the excess paper on both sides. For my sentiment, I picked out two of the stamps from that same Lawn Fawn stamp set, and I'm going to use my Misty tool to stamp them onto a piece of light gray cardstock with Versamark ink. I heat embossed those with a white embossing powder. When I put those two sentiments together, they will say, "Thanks for owl you do." So I cut those two sentiments down into strips, and then I adhered those strips onto some vellum so that they'd have some nice borders around them. I popped those sentiments up onto my card base using some foam tape, and then this card is all done. Thank you for watching today. I hope you really enjoyed this card using the Lawn Fawn stamp set, So Owlsome. All of the supplies that I used for this card can be found in the description down below. If you enjoyed watching today and you have not become a subscriber to my channel, I would encourage you to hit that subscribe button so that you can see all of my future videos. I'm going to be back with a new video on Monday. Again, thank you for watching. I really appreciate all of you, and I hope you have a great day today.